Once upon a time, a long time ago, in a country far, far away, there was a young boy whose name was David. Now he was from Bethlehem, which, as I'm sure you know, is the same town that Jesus was born in. But that's another story. This is the story of David and Goliath. One day, David's father, whose name was Jesse, sent for his son to come in from the fields.
David,
Yes, Father?
I want you to do me a favor.
Yes, of course, Father.
Now you hear that? No arguing, no complaining, no, can I just watch one more cartoon? Mind you, they didn't have cartoons in those days. Or even TV for that matter. But you know what I mean. Anyway, let's go back to the story.
As I was saying,
Yes, Father?
do you know where your brothers are, David?
Yes, Father. They are on the battlefield, just outside of town.
Very good. Now, I hear there's not enough food for all the soldiers, so I want you to take this bread and cheese to your brothers.
All right, Father.
And so off he went. After a short while, David arrived at the battlefield, but no one was fighting. On one side of the field, there were Israelites. That's where David's brothers were. And on the other side, there were the Philistines. The armies faced each other, the armor and spears flashing in the noonday sun. But nothing much was going on,
I guess I've just taken a break.
thought David, and he hurried over to where his brothers were to give them the food that their father had sent. As he sat with his brothers to eat, all of a sudden, a huge voice boomed out from the side of the Philistines, and everybody on the Israelite side jumped.
I'm still waiting. Is there no one among you who has the courage to fight me?
David looked at his brothers.
Who is that?
That's Goliath, the giant, said Joshua. For 40 days he's been trying to get someone to fight him.
So why don't you fight him?
Are you crazy? Look at the size of him. David turned around and he couldn't believe his eyes. Goliath was almost 10 feet tall, and he had the meanest, nastiest face that David had ever seen. His armor was covered in slashes from 100 battles, and he looked like a mountain of muscles. Even his muscles had muscles. Goliath roared on.
If any one of you can fight and kill me, my people will be your slaves forever. Not that we're too worried.
Goliath was right. All the Philistines were laughing and pointing and making fun of the Israelites. Goliath raged on, and with every word, David could see the Israelites were trembling more and more.
You're all a bunch of chickens!
A funny thing began to happen. The louder and ruder that Goliath was, and the more nervous and scared the Israelite soldiers became, the more David felt something strange inside of him grow. And then he realized that funny feeling was courage. And every nasty word that Goliath threw at the Israelites seemed to make David believe more and more that he could take on the giant. Future kings get these feelings every now and then. I bet you felt that way yourself sometimes. Anyway, before David knew what he was doing, he jumped to his feet and shouted,
I'll fight that big bully. Take me to King Saul to ask his permission.
His brothers thought he had gone crazy.
We think you've gone crazy.
I said that already.
You said that already.
I said that too.
You said that too.
Hey, cut it out.
Hey, cut it out.
Be quiet, everybody.
Sorry.
Now take me to King Saul. We don't have a minute to lose.
So they took David before the king, and the mighty King Saul looked down at the boy before him. I don't want to hear any music now. He said this because David played harp for him now and then.
I'm looking for a great warrior to rid the world of Goliath and his godless rabble.
Excuse me, my king,
said David.
but it is I who wish to fight Goliath.
King Saul thought he had gone insane.
I think you've gone insane.
I said that already.
Yes, you did say that already.
Oh no, not this again.
Stop it, everyone. This is important.
Sorry.
King Saul,
David continued.
Goliath might be 10 feet tall, and he might have the sharpest sword and the strongest armor, but I have the God of Israel on my side. I know my faith will defeat him.
King Saul looked around the room, It didn't look like anyone else was going to fight, and although he was certain that the boy would be slaughtered, he admired his courage, and there was a determination in David's eye that couldn't be denied.
"Very well,"
The king said.
"bring the boy my sword and the finest armor in the land, so that he may be protected from the giant's mighty blows."
David tried on the armor, but he said,
King Saul, this is too heavy. I'll never be able to move fast enough. Besides, the God of Israel will protect me better than 10 suits of armor.
and instead of a sword, David brought his sling, which is a kind of old-fashioned slingshot. And on his way to the battlefield, David stopped and picked up 5 smooth stones from a little brook and put them in his pouch. Now David's young heart beat wildly in his chest as he walked out into the clearing between the 2 great armies. He was excited, but he wasn't afraid. He knew what he had to do. David called out,
Goliath, prepare yourself to die.
Now Goliath looked up from the side of beef he was having for a snack.
Go away, boy. I'm busy.
I will not leave this place until you stand up and fight me.
Goliath wiped his greasy mouth on the back of his massive hairy hand and slowly stood up to his full height. His huge body blotted out the sun, and little David stood in his enormous shadow. Goliath laughed out loud.
You're out of your mind.
Goliath thought that David was out of his mind.
Don't start.
Sorry.
Are you the best Israel has to offer?
Your armor and your sword are no match for the one true God.
David took a stone out of his pouch and he put it into his sling.
Who needs a god when you're as mighty as me?
Goliath drew his sword and walked slowly toward David.
You will soon know the power of God.
David started to whirl the sling above his head.
And you will soon know the taste of Philistine steel.
David's sling whirled around faster and faster.
I will crush you like a bug.
Goliath lunged toward David, his sword slashing through the air. David let the stone fly, and it shot through the air like lightning and hit the evil giant right in the middle of his surprised forehead. Goliath crashed to the ground in a heap, and David rushed up, grabbed Goliath's sword, and killed the giant in one thrust. The Philistines and the Israelites stood stunned, their mouths hanging open in disbelief. And then the Philistines began to scream and ran away as fast as their legs could carry them, and with a mighty cheer the Israelites chased them all the way out of their land. King Saul strode up to David with joy and gratitude shining in his eyes.
"My boy, this is the greatest thing my eyes have ever seen. Stay at the royal court forever."
And David said,
I will, King Saul.
and with that, David was hoisted onto the shoulders of his jubilant brothers and taken off to a great celebration. And many years later, when King Saul died, David became the king of Israel. And that is that.